The Dickinson poem I've chosen to interpret is Success is Counted Sweetest. Success is counted sweetest. Success is counted sweetest by those who ne'er succeed. To comprehend a nectar requires sorest need. Not one of all the purple host who took the flag today can tell the definition so clear of victory as he defeated, dying, on whose forbidden ear the distant strains of triumph burst agonized and clear. So this poem was categorized as a Civil War poem, which is apparent in the actual events that are happening in the poem. Looking particularly at the end, defeated and dying, and the strains of triumph kind of makes you think of a soldier in battle who's dying on the losing side and hearing like the trumpets of victory from the other side. So it's exploring the idea of longing after victory because it's so unattainable for someone. So it's kind of like a forbidden fruit type of thing. But I don't think that the Civil War, while it's the apparent scenery in the poem, I don't think that's all of the meaning. I think it symbolizes more than that. Particularly, it makes me think of women's struggles for women's rights. So there's an idea of, because you haven't experienced victory yet, it's that much more alluring, especially if you're on the verge of an opportunity to attain it. It seems that much better, and I think this was true especially for this time period, when the early women's rights movement was had not really taken off yet, but there's it's almost a flip on the phrase "you don't know what you've got until it's gone," but it changes it, and it almost kind of changes it into you only really know what you stand to gain if you haven't been spoiled by having attained victory before. So it's not so much that it's just a prize that you're going after. It's that you know, having experienced kind of such harsh opposition, it's that much more of an achievement to gain victory for you than it would have been for somebody who was used to it. And specifically, it seems to exaggerate this in the middle stanza there, when it says "not one of all the purple host." So not one of all the purple host can tell the definition so clear of victory. Purple obviously is representative of royalty. So, and royalty would be pretty used to being victorious all the time, especially over 95% of the other 95% of the population. So to exaggerate it and say that the royals wouldn't know as much about how important victory is as someone who is dying trying to achieve it, is really powerful, and I think echoes with both the Civil War narrative of the poem and the women's rights symbolism there too. So, and it's also it's almost it's applicable to so many different situations that it's hard to pin it down. But if I had to take a guess, I would guess that Dickinson is using Civil War imagery because her audience would have been so familiar with it as a medium for through which they could understand women's struggles and women's fight for what rights they would eventually gain, but at this point would have been one of those victories that is so unattainable immediately that it seems that much better of a prize to ultimately gain. And I think that using that Civil War imagery would have been really, really powerful, as opposed to just talking about using women in the narrative. I think it speaks to a lot more of her contemporaries that way, and I think, whether intentionally or not, it gets the message out further and clearer than it would have otherwise done.